I've been in Opelousas for about 4 days now. I wasn't really looking for any stories. I was just, when you start looking stuff up and then you start going down the rabbit hole or whatever, got a very unusual story for you. This story has been told a few times. It's kind of a confusing story. We're going to try to narrow it down and tell it as quickly as possible. The very, very curious case of Robert Dunbar. Okay, we're going to go back to May 23rd, 1908. Percy and Leslie Dunbar, they welcome a beautiful, bouncy, healthy baby boy into the world. And everything is great. Everything is fantastic. August 23rd, 1912, Opelousas, Louisiana. It is friggin' steamy hot out here. That is the time in Louisiana where I avoid this place like the plague. You will never catch me in Louisiana in August. But this coming up year, you might. We'll be working on a story, and I believe I might have to come here in the summertime. Anyways, I digress, continuing along. So in the story, it says that the family went on a camping trip. Now, that can't possibly be true. Who the hell is going to want to go on a camping trip in August, of all places, to Lake Swayze, which is a bona fide swamp? I don't think this family was camping. I think they probably just kind of went out to, maybe do a little bit of fishing, or they just kind of went to a park nearby. I don't know. It just sounds odd. But what is not odd is the tragic events as follows. So they were with their two kids, Alonzo and Robert. So Bobby, he somehow wanders off away from the family, and they start looking for him. Bobby, where are you? Bobby, where are you? Robert. There's no Robert or Bobby. He's gone. The family calls the St. Landry Parish Sheriff deputies. They come and they start looking for him. They don't find him. Night falls, the daylight comes up, and now there's a search party. Other friends, family, neighbors, they're searching for this 4-year-old kid, this Bobby Dunbar. One of the members of the search party, they find his hat, which is right next to the edge of the swamp. Uh-oh, that ain't good. Now, maybe they start talking that, did he accidentally fall in and he drowned and then the alligator got him? I'm not really sure. I can tell you this, though. For some unknown reason, if this happens and the family realizes what took place, you probably are thinking that the worst case scenario is that I just explained. But however, for some unknown reason, because the family, they're not rich, but they got a little bit of money. So they're maybe thinking, oh crap, he got kidnapped. That's it, he got kidnapped. I don't know what made them believe that he got kidnapped, but that's what they believe. So they started putting ads in the newspaper. Reward for missing Robert Dunbar, $6,000 cash reward. That's a lot of money back in those days. That's a lot of money. So this family had some, long money, large coin. So the story was rather huge here in the Louisiana area for quite some time, but nothing came up. Nothing happened. So we fast forward about 8 months or so. So now it's April, and we're a few hundred miles away. We're in Columbia, Mississippi. Now, here's what I don't understand. This is the part of the story, again, where it's kind of like a little bit dicey. So, April 13th, 1913, this guy, William Cantwell Walters, he's walking with not his son, but a woman that had worked for his parents. That's his boy. Or her boy, excuse me, some single woman. So I believe they're at a train station or something like that. This guy's like some kind of a traveling salesman or something along those lines. So I don't know if a police officer seen this man and this kid, or a passerby seen this man and this kid and said, okay, this looks like Robert Dunbar, the kid that was kidnapped out in Opelousas. But a police officer approaches William Cantwell Walters with this kid that looks about 5 years old. And he says, who's this kid? And he says, this is Bruce Anderson. And he said, well, is this your son? He said, no, this is the son of a woman. Her name is Julie Anderson. She works for my parents out in North Carolina. Okay, so what are you guys, on a trip or something? And he says, no, she gave me her kid to kind of take care of because she was kind of like a destitute woman. She's single, she's poor. She can't afford to take care of her children. So I kind of offered to take him and, in a sense, raise him as my own. So they're looking at this kid and they're looking at a newspaper clipping of Robert Dunbar, and there is an uncanny resemblance. So they contact this Julie Anderson, and she tells a slightly different story. She said, yeah, I gave my kid to William for a couple of days. He wanted to take him on a trip, but my kid's been gone for like a year or something like that, and I didn't give him permission to take my kid for this amount of time. So they immediately arrest this dude and charge him with kidnapping this kid. Now they take this kid, and then now the news is hitting the wire. Like, it's going all over Louisiana. Robert Dunbar found safe and sound in Columbia, Mississippi. Creepy kidnapper arrested. He's gonna fry for this one, whatever it is that they said. So he goes to jail. They bring Bobby Dunbar on a train out to Opelousas, and there's like a big celebration. Everyone's going absolutely crazy. And so he gets off the train, and again, this is where the story gets a little bit dicey, because different newspaper reporters have different accounts of what transpired when this kid got off the train. Like, one newspaper reporter said, oh yeah, it was great. He ran into his mother's arms. Oh, Mom, I love you. I was so glad. I was so scared. But that's apparently, according to another newspaper reporter, that's absolutely what did not happen. It was almost like a weird feeling, like, this woman, she's looking at her son, and Leslie says, looks like him. Now, mind you, it's been 8 months. And, she's looking like, yeah, it's my son. And so they take their kid back home. And then the next day they're like, yeah, this is our son. He has the same mole on his neck because I gave him a bath. And I was like, yeah, this is the son. However, Alonzo, this is his brother. He's like looking at him, and maybe because he hasn't, he was so young that he barely remembers, but there was no kind of sense of like familiarity. I think I got that word right. And so basically a newspaper pays for a train ticket for Julie Anderson, the mother of this Bruce Anderson, to come out here to identify her son. Now, she hasn't seen her son in like, what is it, a year or something like that? So she's looking at him, and instead of them saying to her, hey, this is your son, see you later, they say, okay, they do like this kind of lineup thing where they have like these kids in this place, and they're like, all right, which one is your son? And some say that she didn't recognize him, others said that she did. And then now maybe like they're putting it in her head like, no, this is Bobby Dunbar, this is not your son. And I see, this is a picture of Bobby Dunbar. And again, the resemblance is, it is there. And so now she starts to doubt herself. She goes, maybe this isn't my son. So she kind of leaves like despondent. She's like, I can't really tell. And then the next day she comes back. She goes, no. That is my son. That's my son. I swear to God, that's my son. That's my son. That's my son. The Dunbars are like, no, you're crazy. This is our son. She said, no, that's my son. So a court battle would take place in Opelousas. The battle over who this kid really is and who's the mother, who's the right mother. So the William Cantwell Walters, he ends up getting life in prison for kidnapping. And so the trial takes place here, and the court rules in favor of Percy and Leslie Dunbar. That is Robert Dunbar. And Julie Anderson, she doesn't have any money. She's broke. She's poor. They're barely paying her to take care of the folks. So she just leaves despondent, and she goes back home to North Carolina. So Robert Dunbar, he would later go on to get married, have 4 children. He was a salesman for an electrical supply company, and he ran a gas station. I don't know if he owned the gas station, but he ran a gas station on top of everything else. So Robert Dunbar is living in Texas, and he has ongoing heart issues, right? Very loving father, very loving grandfather, just a great man, a good, solid family man of Christian faith. So he would tragically die of heart disease in 1966. One day he woke up, wasn't feeling good. He had a heart attack. They brought him to the hospital in Houston, and that is where he sadly died at the age of 57 years old. Died pretty young. I'm imagining if you're running a gas station and you're a salesman, yeah, that could be a quite a I would say that could be quite a life where it's just very stressful at times. And so after he died, his family brought him here back to Opelousas, back to where he was born. We fast forward to 2004. Now, by this time, a lot of, if not all of the major players that were involved in the story, they're all long dead. So one of the family members of the Dunbar family who remembers this story being told generation to generation about how their grandfather Bobby was kidnapped and how it was such a big ordeal, and they would show them old newspaper photos of what took place and of the court proceedings and all this and that. And the story ended up where, Bobby was placed rightfully with his mother, and the story, it ends well, right? Well, this woman, she's interested in having some kind of finality in the story. So she gets basically the descendants of Alonzo Dunbar, who would be Bobby's younger brother, and the descendants of Robert Dunbar, and they all they do a DNA test to compare their DNA. And boy, shockingly enough, come to find out their DNA did not match. Yeah, DNA did not match. This man right here, Robert Dunbar, he really was Bruce Anderson, and he was kidnapped by the courts here in Opelousas and given to the Dunbar family. His real name was Bruce Anderson. How's that for a fascinating story? Wow. Incredible. And that woman, Julie Anderson, she died having her kid ripped away from her. And who knows what the real story is with that whole situation. But what ended up happening to Mr. Walters was that he did file an appeal, and it was granted. And he did about 2 years in prison. So he got out and just disappeared, lived his life. So we don't really know the true story of the kidnapping. If it was a kidnapping, and maybe the woman was embarrassed that she kind of gave her son up away to a man that wanted to raise him as his own, who knows. But anyways, Robert Dunbar, and then that's Robert Dunbar Jr. An interesting story, to say the least. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. Rest in peace to the Dunbar family. It's just a very fascinating story. Catch up with you on the next one. Where am I going to be at? I have no idea.